So continuing with the book of Revelation, and again, like I said, it's broken up into parts. You have chapter 1, which is more of an introduction. Then you have 2 and 3 are about the letters to the 7 churches. At chapter 4, he goes up into heaven. He's not just seeing a vision. Now he's going up to heaven. In chapter 5, we see him going up there and seeing who's up there and seeing the angels with the different faces and the different wings and these different things and the 24 elders and the beast all singing holy, 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 glory and honor and power, all this worship going on. Chapter 5, of course, who is worthy to open these scrolls? And these scrolls are going to be very important. When I say scrolls, I mean the scroll, but the scroll has 7 seals. And we're going to open one seal at a time. But no man can open it. The only person worthy to open it is the Lamb that was slain, which is Jesus. And he starts opening the seals. We start looking at the seals in chapter 6. Of course, 1 was the white horse, 2 was the red horse, 3 was the black horse, and 4 was the gray horse, which is death. So you have a conqueror, you have war, you have economic upheaval, and of course you have death for a fourth of the planet. And this has not happened yet. I know some people say Corona and all of this. Believe me, this has not happened yet. Maybe those were forerunners. Maybe those were, giving you a chance to see what this would be like, a little taste, if you will. But nothing like what's going to happen. When we see chapter 7 and 8 and 9 and 10... Well, 8 and 9, actually, you're going to talk about some of the seals that will be opened. You have, of course, you have 5 seals opened in chapter 6. You have 4 of them. The 5th seal was opened, and the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and the testimony that they held. And I'm thinking this is not the church, but this is what I'm saying is a group that are very special millennial saints who are in a different dispensation than we are, that's kind of unknown to us, and we're just now getting an inkling of what that would be. I mean, the Jews would have never thought about the existence of the church, and somehow the church has never thought about the existence of this small group. We have later on, this group will have their robes washed white and all of these things, the symbolism of how special they will be to God. Both the saints of the Old Testament, those in the church, and those in here are all precious to God, but in different ways for how they administered. Glorifying God through the law, glorifying God through grace, glorifying God through sacrifice. So we see this as the same thing. So we have 5 of them opened. There's going to be 3 woes. Now these woes are horrible things, horrible supernatural things that are going to happen. The others you could say were okay. We've seen wars and we've seen, unfortunately, death, and we've seen those. But when you get to the woes, they're supernatural. I believe there's demons that will be let out of hell. These demons will go out and given power. They will be, if you will, there's people that they cannot touch. So they have rules that they have to follow. We'll look at that. You have these angels that are holding the 4 winds of the earth. And there's no wind blowing on the earth at all, which is an odd thing to say, nowhere is wind blowing. And another angel descended from the east, having the seal of the living God and a shout. And he was told... He was given the power to hurt the earth and the sea. But he told them, after they stop this wind, when they allow these beasts to come up, they are not to hurt those that have been sealed, the servants of our God, in their foreheads. So God has sealed these, believing these millennial, and when I say millennial, I mean post-millennial believers. So they're going to get sealed in their forehead. Just like we are sealed with the Holy Spirit, they're sealed in their foreheads. And the number of them that were sealed were 144,000, 12,000 of every tribe. You go and mention every tribe. And chapter 7 mentions Judah, Reuben, Gad, Asher. You have Manasseh, Simeon. All 12 tribes are mentioned here. So looking at verse 9 of chapter 27, he says, Lo, and there was a great number that no man could number. All nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. And they said, Salvation to our God that sits on the throne and unto the Lamb. And all the angels stood round about, and all the elders and the 4 beasts, they also worship, saying, blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power might be unto God forever. One of the elders said to me, what are these people in the white robes? And he goes, you know. These are those that came out of the great tribulation and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of God, and serve him night and day in his temple, and he that sits on the throne shall dwell among them. They will hunger no more, neither shall they thirst, neither shall the sunlight be on them, nor any heat, for the Lamb is in the midst of the throne, shall feed them, and shall lead them by living waters, and he shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. So the idea here is, like I'm saying, I'm believing that there is a group, a post-church, premillennial group, a large number worldwide from every nation, every kindred that do accept in this time. It's like two forces going on. Those that are for Satan, as for sin, will rise up on one side. Those that are for Christ will rise up on another. They're large numbers. And they went through this great tribulation. And so they are going to be the special group that God has for a special thing. They will hunger no more. You get the idea they were hungry. They will thirst no more. You get the idea they were thirsty, that they were heated. They were in tremendous heat and abandoned. And the Lamb will take care of them and wipe away tears from their eyes. Therefore, they have had a lot of tears and had a lot of sorrow. So it gives an insight here of also something going on in this great tribulation period. So, and when he had opened the seventh seal, we go into the seventh seal now, and there was silence in heaven for about an hour. And for about half an hour. And I guess you get a feel for time. You know, it's been about a half an hour, not that long. And I saw seven angels, which before God have seven trumpets. Now the seventh seal is going to have seven trumpets. We've gone through the six seals. And then we talked a little bit about these post-church, pre-millennial martyrs. And now we have... there's going to be seven trumpets within this last seal. This last seal will be broken up into seven trumpets, and we also have another woe coming. Oh, wait, no, we've got three woes coming, sorry. And so, the other angel that came up had a large censer, which had the prayers of the saints and the golden altar, and the smoke of the incense came up before God. And the angel took the censer and filled it in the altar and cast it onto earth, and there were many voices and thunderings, and the seven angels prepared to sound. First angel sounded, and there was hailstones mingled with blood that came down and killed a third of the trees. So you get this hailstone from this like meteorites from heaven coming down and burning a third of the trees on the planet. Then the second angel sounded, and there was a great mountain came down and cast into the sea. So you get the idea that this might have been a giant comet with its little bitty parts. The little parts that are going ahead destroy a third of the trees, and this big one goes in and lands into the sea and kills a third of that in the sea. The third part of the creatures that are in the seas died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. So this thing lands and it kills a third of the sea and a third of the ships that are in the sea. And the third angel sounded, and this great star fell from heaven, burning like a lamp, and turned the rivers and the fountains of the waters, and this became wormwood. So you'll also get this thing probably broke up into two pieces. One piece the first piece group, like the little comets, the pre-comets come down and destroy a third of the trees. Another one comes along and lands and destroys a third of the fish, and then another one comes and lands and puts wormwood into the fresh drinking water. So the nations are losing fresh drinking water. They're having their maritime destroyed, a third of it destroyed, and a third of the trees are destroyed. So you're getting this happened, and the waters were called wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were bitter. The fourth angel sounded, and a third part of the sun was smitten, and a third part of the moon, and a third part of the stars. And they were darkened and shown to be a third part of the light. Now that sounds like what we would call not really nuclear winter, but if you had all of this hitting the earth, you would have all that dirt coming up and would kind of cascade around, and it would darken out. It would darken the world. Remember, we've talked before, not in this series, but secular people have talked about nuclear winter. Or if you had a comet strike, what would it do to the atmosphere and how it would cover? So here we have this all makes sense together, that you've got this coming down. From our point of view, a third of the sun goes out. From our point of view, a third of the moon, a third of the stars that are shown. And the angel that was flying there saying, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, for the trumpet of the, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels." So you have these woes coming up. And so we have this happening here with the seven seals. The fifth angel sounded. So you have four angels sounded, and you have more angels. You have three angels to go. 5, 6, and 7. So fifth angel sounds, and a star fell from heaven unto the earth, and was given the key of the bottomless pit. So you've got another one that comes down. This time it cracks the earth and allows out of the bottomless pit. And this is going to be one that's supernatural. We get all of these locusts that come out, and they're described here, and I believe these are supernatural. I believe this is, I've read the book of Enoch, even though it's not in the Bible, but I believe that that's going to happen is you'll open this up, and God's going to allow out of Tartarus, and out of there will come of all these demonic things, because they will not touch certain people. They will have their rules. So he opens this bottomless pit, and the smoke comes out of the pit, and the sun and the air was darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So that's also darkening this. So, you have that happening. And out of the smoke, locusts from the earth, and came about with scorpions. They had the power of the scorpion, as the scorpion has power. So they were able to sting people. Doesn't say they stung them from the back. Could have been stinging from any side. They had the power to sting you, just like a scorpion would. Doesn't say it was out of the back. We tend to think it's out of the back. Could have been up the front also. But it was commanded that they won't hurt the grass of the earth, nor the green thing, neither the tree, or only those men that have not the seal of God in their forehead. See, that's why these are demonic, because they have certain rules. The demons had rules, by the way. When they dealt with Jesus, they were afraid of Jesus. They could only do certain things. They asked, pretty much begged to go into the swine, if you remember that story, with Jesus. And to them, it was given them not to kill them, but they could torment people. So they couldn't sting people to death. They could torment them, and they tormented them for 5 months. And the torment was so bad that men would seek death, and they couldn't find it. And death would flee from them. People couldn't die. At least they couldn't die of these things, because they would want death from all the pain that was happening from these supernatural scorpions that were stinging them. And the shapes of the scorpions were like horses prepared for battle. So they looked like these giant horses. And they had crowns of gold, and their face was like the face of men, so they kind of looked like men. They had the hair, long hair going back like women, and their teeth was like the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots. They were very fearsome things coming at you. And they had a king. See, this isn't normal locusts. They have a king, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, who in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue it's Apollyon. Now again, we're talking Hebrew tongues, so we're talking mostly to Hebrews. Where I'm also going is the fact that many of this, especially when we get past, when we get into chapter 12, we're really going to be pretty much in a Jewish idiom. A Hebrew idiom from 12 and 18 could be considered tied to Daniel. You could say Revelation 12 was also Daniel 13, and run with it that way, because it connects so well between those two. And so we have these coming up. One woe was past, and therefore there were two woes. The sixth angel sounded, and there was a voice, and heard a voice with 4 horns of golden altar before God, saying to the sixth angel, "Loose the 4 angels that are bound in the great river Euphrates." And the 4 angels loosed up, and which they had been prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year. And these also will be demonic coming up. They have been prepared for this. God has been preparing his wrath for this world. It's down there right now, just waiting to come up at his call. Remember, against Israel, against Jerusalem, when Nebuchadnezzar was around, God was pleading with them, "Don't make me do this. I'm already set. I'm ready to fire." He was saying that to Zedekiah, and Zedekiah wouldn't listen. Here he's saying that to the world, and the world will not listen. And you'll see that at the end of this chapter, which I'm going to get to. So the 4 angels were loosed. These were the ones that were holding back the 4 winds. They were loosed Loose the 4 angels that were bound in the river Euphrates, and the 4 angels were loosed, and they were prepared for that hour, day, month, and year. And the number of their army was 400,000. And they had horses, and I saw the horses in the vision, having blessed price of fire, and the heads of the horses were like the heads of lions, and out of their mouth came fire. And these 3 was the third part of the men killed by fire, and by smoke, and by brimstone, and by the power of the mouth, and their tails, for their tails were like that of serpents. They were shooting out their tails. They could shoot out their tails like serpents. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils, and idols of gold, and silver, and brass, and stone, and wood, and neither can see, nor hear, nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor their sorceries, nor their fornications, nor their thefts. Even with all of this happening, people are not repenting. Those that are believing either are we get the believers were safe from, it says those that had the seal in their foreheads were safe from these locusts, but they weren't safe from the anti-God people. They could be killed by people. You get that inference when you look at these pre-millennial post-church martyrs, that yes, man could kill man, but these things that were coming after could not kill those that did not have the seal, or did have the seal. They could not kill those that had the seal. So we're seeing a lot of stuff here that's happening, and you get an idea of what's going on. And here we're having this. We've done now, within the 7th seal, we've done everything, and we've had 6 angels sound. There's 1 to go. And there's 2 more woes to come up. You'll have 2 woes coming up again in another chapter or 2. But here's a time to take a break and really read this for what it's saying, not what you've heard it said. That's the problem with this, especially when you do the grid work. You have to do your work of saying, what is it really saying? And I really have to fight. I struggle with this a little bit because I'm having to fight through all the things I've heard to reveal to you what it's really saying. So, you have these, and they're going to loose them up. There's going to be supernatural that come out of the earth after this happens. But again, you still have in 12 through 18, you're going to go back and now fill in more of the geopolitical blanks. So you get through the 7th trumpet. So you could almost take the 7th trumpet and go to 19 from here if you really wanted to see how the story goes. But he's going to take them down a level, though, and show you more stuff that was going on in this interim period. So we go up, we do the churches, and we do all of these judgments. But before we get to Jesus, we're going to go back and cover some of the geopoliticals and some of the other things that were going on. So that's how Revelation is working. It's an interesting thing, but we're having to put all of our thinking caps on. This is the big boy pant time. This is when it gets real, but we need to get it right. Thank you.